Where do all the lonely people go? Where do I belong? These were the words spoken to Rose Berini from a little boy dressed in white roaming her upstairs hall. This boy wasn't one of her own two children. The ghostly figure asking Rose these questions did not appear to be of this world. In today's episode, we will look into the ghostly encounters experienced by the Berini family. The poltergeist experiences, later dubbed the Berini Hauntings by paranormal researchers, started shortly after Joe Berini, his wife, and two of her children from a former marriage moved into his ancestral New England home in the late 1970s. At the time, the family was unaware that the home had its own mysterious history, which would unfold into horrifying experiences that would eventually drive them from their home in search of help. Their first event occurred one evening in May, 1979, when the manifestation of a ghostly young girl appeared and spoke these words to Rose. "Mama, Mama, this is Serena." Neither Joe nor Rose knew of any girl in the family's past by the name of Serena. What they did come to know soon enough was that when Serena visited them, something significant was about to happen to the family, usually of dire consequences. After Serena's first visit, their daughter Daisy went to the doctors to have her tonsils taken out. Except during the operation, there were complications, which resulted in her heart stopping, and she nearly perished. Another of Serena's visits to the family coincided with the stroke of Joe's grandmother and appeared again one night in November before the elderly woman passed away. The timing of Serena's visits, coinciding with Daisy's near-death experience, the stroke suffered by Joe's grandmother, and later her death, did not go unnoticed by the Berinis. Her connection to the family seemed strong, as Joe remembers waking up to Serena's voice, only to find his wife choking next to him in her sleep. After shaking her awake, Rose explained to him that her ex-husband was choking her in her dream. In March of 1981, another child made an appearance to Rose. A little boy, dressed fully in white, was roaming her upstairs hall. Like Serena, these were not frightening experiences, and she described them to researchers as a very peaceful experience. Unlike Serena, whose mission seems to have been to warn the family of danger, this young boy seemed to be searching for an object. The boy, who was also witnessed by Joe, was seen entering each bedroom, then settled on the floor of the hallway in search of something, sight unseen. Curious, Joe later pulled up the floorboards and found a medallion of the Virgin Mary. The Berini family learned that Joe's father, Carlos, had two younger siblings that had died in the house. There was Serena, who had passed away at the tender age of 5, and a young boy by the name of Giorgio, who passed at the age of 8. Joe heard the little boy say to him on one occasion, "My oldest brother is the only one who can help me." Joe assumes the boy was referring to his father, Carlos. What did he mean? Help him from what? That very sentence was the beginning of the terror. It was shortly thereafter, this statement, that objects started to move in unpredictable fashion, with phones flying, doors slamming open and shut, and objects being yanked from Rose's hands. This turn of events led the Berinis in search of spiritual help. They asked 2 priests to come and bless the house, which they did with prayers and holy oil. There was a quiet spell after the rituals, but it wasn't for long. The entity that descended upon them shortly after seemed straight from hell, though it once proclaimed itself a minister of God. It was a male, hunchbacked figure with oversized feet, wearing a black cape. Apparently, the hunchback entity was responsible for the poltergeist activity. It was going to get worse, and Rose seemed to be the main focus of the increasingly violent activity. Rose was hit by various objects that flew off the walls and shelves, but the worst attack would come one night shortly after Joe had left the home to work the night shift. Rose was sleeping and woke to a loud bang and found her bed bouncing off the floor and the entity screaming obscenities. She tried to escape the room, but the door slammed shut before she was able to get out. She did, however, manage to call Joe, who raced home from work. When he arrived, he ran to the room and opened the door, only to find the bed floating in the air about 2 feet off the ground. Rose was crouched in the corner, praying, with rosary beads in hand. The Berinis decided to leave the home after finding a butcher knife stuck deep into a wooden table. The family was gone for about a month, during which time an exorcism was performed at the house. No further paranormal activity was ever reported. The Berini haunting was not reported to any paranormal research group until after the house had been exorcised. When the Psychical Research Foundation, or PRF, was notified, they sent investigators to the home. The investigators observed no paranormal activity as it had ceased by the time they arrived. They were, however, able to confirm much of what the Berini family reported by speaking to family, friends, and the priests involved with the exorcism. This concludes today's episode of the Paranormal Report. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. It is due to your continued viewership and support that we are able to bring you interesting and informative videos like this. The team here at the Paranormal Report really appreciates your support.